They want to put her at point forward this season. They want her making plays because she's a playmaker. Ah! That Angel Reese hit a buzzer beater. You got to check this out. 3, 2, 1. Ah!
The story of modern professional basketball isn't just about stats and standings. It's about character, consistency, and what happens when the spotlight gets too bright for some players to handle. Today, we're diving deep into a tale that's been unfolding across multiple seasons, revealing patterns that speak volumes about what it truly means to be a professional athlete. When we talk about the evolution of women's professional basketball, we're witnessing something unprecedented. The talent level has skyrocketed, the competition has intensified, and the margin for error has shrunk to nothing. In this environment, certain players rise to meet the challenge head-on, while others seem to crumble under the weight of expectations they helped create. Let's start with a fundamental truth about professional sports. The most valuable currency isn't talent alone, it's reliability. You can have all the physical gifts in the world, but if coaches, teammates, and fans can't count on you to show up when it matters most, those gifts become meaningless. This principle separates true stars from manufactured celebrities, and it's playing out in real time across the league. Consider the fascinating case study we've been watching unfold. On one side, we have Caitlin Clark, a player who embodies everything the modern game demands. Her approach to basketball isn't just about individual achievement, it's about elevating everyone around her. When she steps onto the court, the entire dynamic changes. The ball moves with purpose, teammates find themselves in better positions, and the game flows like a well-orchestrated symphony. Clark's impact extends far beyond traditional statistics, though her numbers are certainly impressive. She's averaging over 16 points per game, while dishing out nearly 9 assists nightly, leading the entire league in that crucial category. But here's what makes her special. She's doing all of this while battling through legitimate injuries that would sideline lesser competitors. When she suffered a groin injury that clearly affected her mobility, did she disappear? Did she make excuses? No, she adapted her game, found new ways to contribute, and continued making her teammates better. This is leadership in its purest form. Even when Clark can't suit up, she's there on the bench, engaged with every possession, coaching her teammates through difficult moments, and maintaining the energy that has become synonymous with her presence. Her team, the Indiana Fever, has responded to this consistency by building something sustainable. They've surrounded her with complementary pieces who understand their roles and execute them with precision. Aaliyah Boston has emerged as a dominant force in the paint, providing the inside presence that allows Clark's perimeter wizardry to flourish. Kelsey Mitchell brings veteran scoring punch and clutch gene mentality that championship teams require. Sophie Cunningham adds the gritty toughness that can swing momentum in crucial moments. Lexie Hull fills the role of the ultimate glue player, making winning plays that don't always show up in highlight reels, but absolutely show up in the win column. This roster construction isn't accidental. It's the result of understanding what Clark brings to the table and building around those strengths. The pace is intentionally fast because Clark thrives in transition. The spacing is designed to maximize her playmaking vision. The defensive schemes are built to create the turnovers that fuel fast breaks, where her court vision becomes devastatingly effective. Now let's examine the stark contrast playing out in Chicago. Angel Reese entered the professional ranks with tremendous fanfare and marketing potential. The rebounding numbers were impressive initially, and the personality seemed tailor-made for social media success. However, professional sports has a way of revealing who players really are when the cameras stop rolling and the real work begins. The pattern that's emerged around Reese is deeply troubling for anyone who cares about competitive integrity. Multiple seasons now have followed an eerily similar script. Early in the year, when expectations are manageable and pressure is minimal, she's present and engaged. But as soon as adversity strikes, as soon as the team struggles, as soon as individual performance becomes scrutinized, mysterious ailments appear. Last season provided the first major red flag. After a promising start, Reese found herself in a competitive battle for Rookie of the Year recognition with Clark. As Clark's performance elevated and the gap in their impact became apparent, Reese suddenly developed a wrist injury that required season-ending surgery. The timing was curious, coming right as her team needed her most, and right as the individual accolades she coveted were slipping away. The current season has followed an even more predictable pattern. Through the early months, Reese was available and putting up numbers that looked impressive in isolation. But context matters in professional sports, and the context around her statistics was becoming increasingly problematic. The Chicago Sky weren't winning games. Her advanced metrics suggested she might actually be hurting her team's chances, and the comparisons to Clark were growing more unfavorable by the week. Then came the All-Star break, and with it, another mysterious injury. This time, it's her back, but the details remain frustratingly vague. No specific incident, no clear timeline for return, just the same day-to-day designation that has become her calling card. Meanwhile, her team has begun to show signs of life in her absence, raising uncomfortable questions about her actual impact on winning basketball. The difference in how these two players handle adversity reveals everything about their character and commitment to the game. When Clark faces criticism or struggles, she responds by working harder and finding new ways to contribute. When her shot isn't falling, she focuses on playmaking. When her team loses, she takes responsibility and looks for solutions. Reese's response to adversity follows a different playbook entirely. Rather than grinding through difficult stretches, rather than using criticism as motivation, she retreats. The injuries are convenient cover, but the timing is too consistent to be coincidental. Professional athletes play through pain regularly. It's part of the job description. What separates stars from role players is often the ability to perform when conditions are far from ideal. The impact on their respective teams tells the real story. Indiana has built a culture around Clark's reliability and work ethic. Players know she'll be there, know she'll compete, regardless of circumstances. And that consistency has created trust throughout the organization. When role players see their star grinding through injuries and still finding ways to help the team win, it raises everyone's standard of professionalism. Chicago faces the opposite dynamic. How do you build chemistry and trust around a player whose availability seems tied to external factors like team record and personal statistics? How do you develop winning habits when your supposed franchise cornerstone disappears during the most challenging stretches of the season? The Sky's improvement in Reese's absence suggests her teammates have noticed these patterns too. The business side of professional sports adds another layer to this story. The league invests heavily in marketing certain players, building narratives that hopefully translate to increased viewership and revenue. But authentic stardom cannot be manufactured through social media presence and carefully crafted image campaigns. Fans ultimately connect with players who demonstrate genuine commitment to competing and winning. Clark's marketability stems from her undeniable impact on actual basketball games. When she plays, teams have to completely alter their defensive strategies. When she's healthy, the Fever become exponentially more dangerous as a playoff contender. When she's injured, but still engaged with her team, it demonstrates the kind of leadership that resonates with fans who understand what competition really means. The television ratings tell a revealing story about authentic versus manufactured appeal. Games featuring Clark consistently draw higher viewership, regardless of the opponent or circumstances. Her absence from games creates noticeable drops in audience engagement. Meanwhile, Reese's presence or absence has minimal impact on broadcast numbers, suggesting that casual fans see through the marketing hype and recognize the difference between real stars and media creations. This distinction becomes even more apparent when examining playoff implications and team-building philosophy. The Fever have positioned themselves as a legitimate postseason contender built around sustainable excellence. Their roster construction, coaching decisions, and organizational culture all reflect a commitment to competing at the highest level year after year. Clark's stated goal of winning multiple championships isn't empty rhetoric. It's supported by concrete actions, both on and off the court. She's taken less money to help the team build a stronger supporting cast. She's publicly endorsed the front office's roster moves. She's embraced the leadership role that comes with being a franchise player, including the uncomfortable responsibilities like holding teammates accountable and maintaining standards during difficult periods. Chicago's approach reflects a fundamentally different set of priorities. The focus seems centered on individual branding and short-term publicity rather than sustainable competitive success. When your best player's availability correlates with team performance and personal statistics, it becomes impossible to build the kind of culture that championship organizations require. The ripple effects extend beyond just these two players and their immediate teams. Young players throughout the league are watching and learning what professionalism looks like at the highest level. They're seeing two different models of how to handle stardom, criticism, and adversity. The lessons being taught through example will influence the next generation of talent and ultimately shape the future direction of the entire league. Consider the message being sent to high school and college players who dream of professional careers. One path shows them that elite talent comes with elite responsibilities. That being a star means showing up consistently, playing through discomfort, and prioritizing team success over individual accolades. This path requires genuine dedication to improvement, acceptance of criticism, and the mental toughness to persevere through inevitable struggles. The alternative path suggests that image management and strategic availability can substitute for on-court excellence, that carefully timed injuries can protect statistics and reputation while avoiding the grind of competing through adversity. This approach prioritizes short-term perception over long-term respect and ultimately undermines the competitive integrity that makes professional sports compelling. The contrast becomes particularly stark when examining how these players handle head-to-head matchups. Throughout this season, every game between Indiana and Chicago has been positioned as a marquee attraction, a chance to showcase the league's rising stars in direct competition. The results have been decisively one-sided, with the Fever dominating regardless of which players are available. More telling than the final scores is how each player approaches these rivalry games. Clark treats them as opportunities to compete against elite competition and test her skills against the best the league has to offer. Win or lose, she's engaged, she's competing, and she's using these moments to grow as a player and leader. Reese's approach to these matchups reveals a different mentality entirely. When the spotlight is brightest, when the comparisons are most direct, when there's nowhere to hide from head-to-head competition, she's mysteriously unavailable. The pattern is too consistent to ignore, and too convenient to accept at face value. Professional athletics at the highest level demands a specific type of mentality. The physical talent gets you noticed, but mental toughness determines longevity and legacy. Champions throughout sports history share common traits. They show up when it matters most, they perform under pressure, and they find ways to contribute even when conditions are far from ideal. The current WNBA season has provided a real-time case study in these principles. We've seen one player embrace every aspect of professional competition, while another has consistently sought exit ramps when the pressure intensifies. The results on the court, in the standings, and in public perception reflect these different approaches perfectly. As this season continues and these careers develop, the gap between authentic stardom and manufactured celebrity will only become more apparent. Fans, media, and fellow players have demonstrated repeatedly that they can distinguish between genuine excellence and carefully managed image campaigns. The league's future stars will be those who earn respect through consistent performance and unwavering commitment to competing. The Chicago Sky's recent success without their supposed franchise player provides the most damning evidence of all. Professional sports teams are complex organisms that require chemistry, trust, and shared commitment to achieve their potential. When removing a player improves team chemistry and performance, it raises fundamental questions about that player's value and approach to the game. Meanwhile, Indiana continues building something sustainable around proven leadership and authentic competitive drive. Their improvement trajectory suggests they understand what championship-caliber organizations require: patience, consistency, and stars who embrace the full responsibility that comes with elite status. The lessons from this ongoing story extend far beyond basketball. In any competitive environment, whether sports, business, or personal development, the principles remain constant. Reliability builds trust, consistency creates opportunity, and authentic commitment ultimately separates achievers from pretenders. As fans and observers, we have the privilege of witnessing these principles play out in real time through the lens of professional basketball. The contrasts are stark, the patterns are clear, and the outcomes are becoming increasingly predictable. True champions reveal themselves not through marketing campaigns or social media presence, but through their response to adversity and their commitment to excellence when no one is watching. The future of women's professional basketball will be shaped by players who understand these fundamental truths and embrace the full responsibility that comes with representing the sport at its highest level. Those who prioritize authentic competition over image management will build lasting legacies, while those who choose convenience over commitment will be forgotten as quickly as their carefully crafted personas fade from public consciousness. The psychological aspect of professional competition cannot be understated in this analysis. Elite athletics requires a specific mental framework that allows players to thrive under intense scrutiny and pressure. Some athletes are energized by high-stakes situations, using external pressure as fuel for extraordinary performances. Others wilt under the same circumstances, finding ways to avoid situations where their limitations might be exposed. This mental divide explains why certain players consistently deliver in crucial moments, while others mysteriously become unavailable when the stakes are highest. It's not necessarily about physical courage, but rather about the psychological willingness to risk failure in pursuit of greatness. Champions understand that the possibility of failure is the price of admission for the chance at transcendent success. The development of young talent throughout the league provides another fascinating lens through which to examine these different approaches to professionalism. Rookie players and second-year athletes are watching carefully to see which veterans they should emulate. The examples being set today will influence how the next generation approaches their careers and handles the inevitable challenges that come with professional competition. Clark's influence on younger players extends beyond her statistical achievements. Her willingness to play through injury, her consistent preparation habits, and her commitment to team success over individual recognition create a template for sustainable excellence. Young players who adopt these principles position themselves for long-term success and respect throughout their careers. Alternatively, the pattern of strategic unavailability and excuse-making provides a cautionary tale about the long-term consequences of prioritizing short-term comfort over competitive integrity. Young players who choose this path may find initial success in managing their public image, but ultimately limit their potential for authentic achievement and lasting respect. The role of coaching and organizational culture becomes crucial in these scenarios. Great coaches demand consistency and accountability from all players, regardless of their marketing value or social media following. They understand that allowing star players to operate under different standards ultimately corrupts the competitive environment and limits the team's potential for success. The Indiana Fever's coaching staff has clearly established a culture where everyone is held to the same standard of professionalism and commitment. This approach has allowed them to maximize their talent and create an environment where role players can thrive alongside stars. When everyone knows the expectations are consistent and non-negotiable, it creates trust and unity that translates directly to on-court success. Chicago's situation illustrates what happens when organizations struggle to balance marketing considerations with competitive requirements. When star players are allowed to operate under different rules or expectations, it creates resentment among teammates and undermines the collective commitment necessary for championship-level performance. The recent improvement in team chemistry during Reese's absence suggests these dynamics have been noticed throughout the organization. The media's role in perpetuating or challenging these patterns deserves examination as well. Sports journalism at its best holds athletes accountable for their commitments and calls attention to discrepancies between public statements and actual behavior. However, the modern media landscape sometimes prioritizes entertainment value over honest analysis, allowing manufactured narratives to persist despite contradictory evidence. The most effective sports media coverage recognizes that fans ultimately want authentic competition and genuine excellence. Audiences can distinguish between real achievement and carefully managed perception campaigns. Media outlets that consistently provide honest analysis of player performance and character tend to build stronger relationships with their audiences over time. Social media has complicated these dynamics by allowing players to control their own narratives to an unprecedented degree. Athletes can now bypass traditional media entirely and speak directly to fans, creating carefully curated images that may not reflect their actual approach to competition. This power can be used to build authentic connections with fans, or to maintain facades that obscure uncomfortable realities about commitment and character. The most successful players in this environment are those who use social media to provide genuine insight into their preparation, dedication, and thought processes. Fans appreciate transparency and authenticity, even when it reveals struggles and imperfections. Players who use these platforms to showcase their work ethic and commitment to improvement tend to build stronger, more lasting connections with their audiences. Conversely, players who use social media primarily for image management and excuse-making often find that fans eventually see through the carefully constructed personas. Modern audiences are sophisticated and can recognize when public statements don't align with actual behavior and performance patterns. The international growth of women's basketball adds another layer of significance to these domestic dynamics. Players who consistently perform at the highest level become ambassadors for the sport globally, inspiring young athletes around the world to pursue basketball excellence. Their approach to competition and professionalism sets standards that influence the development of talent across multiple continents. The responsibility that comes with this global influence should not be taken lightly. When international audiences see players consistently showing up and competing through adversity, it elevates the perception of the entire league and sport. When they see players making excuses and avoiding challenging situations, it undermines the credibility and growth potential of women's professional basketball worldwide. The economic implications of these different approaches to professionalism are becoming increasingly clear as well. Sponsors and marketing partners ultimately want to associate with athletes who embody the values of dedication, perseverance, and authentic achievement. While short-term publicity stunts might generate temporary attention, long-term marketing value comes from consistent excellence and genuine competitive accomplishments. Television networks and streaming platforms are particularly sensitive to these dynamics because they need to deliver authentic entertainment value to their audiences. Games featuring players who consistently compete at the highest level generate better ratings and more engaged viewership than contests where key players are mysteriously unavailable or clearly not fully committed to the outcome. The playoff implications of these patterns are becoming increasingly apparent as the season progresses. Teams built around reliable, consistent performers position themselves for sustained postseason success. Organizations that depend on players whose availability fluctuates based on external circumstances find themselves constantly adjusting expectations and struggling to build the continuity necessary for championship runs. The development of winning culture requires time, consistency, and shared commitment from everyone in the organization. When star players demonstrate through their actions that they prioritize team success over individual comfort, it creates a foundation for sustainable excellence. When star players send mixed messages about their commitment level, it becomes nearly impossible to establish the trust and unity that championship teams require. As this season continues to unfold and these careers develop further, the contrast between authentic competitive excellence and manufactured celebrity becomes more pronounced with each passing game. The patterns are clear, the results speak for themselves, and the long-term implications for both individual legacies and league development are becoming undeniable. The choice facing every professional athlete remains constant, regardless of sport or era. They can embrace the full responsibility that comes with elite talent, including the obligation to compete through adversity and maintain consistent standards of excellence. Alternatively, they can prioritize short-term comfort and image management over authentic achievement and lasting respect. The basketball world is watching these choices play out in real time, and the lessons being taught through example will influence the sport's development for years to come. Those who choose the path of authentic excellence will be remembered as true champions who elevated their sport and inspired future generations. Those who choose convenience over commitment will serve as cautionary tales about wasted potential and misplaced priorities. The ultimate measure of any professional athlete's career is not their peak statistical performance or their social media following, but rather their consistency, reliability, and impact on winning basketball games. By this standard, the current season has provided clear and undeniable evidence about which approach to professional competition creates lasting value and authentic greatness.